Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice, the podcast for women who are done waiting for the one and ready to become the parent on their own damn terms. We're talking fertility, pregnancy, emotional chaos, and the village that it takes to raise a kid. Sometimes you're crying in the bathtub. Sometimes you're crying because your toddler bit you. And sometimes you cry because you chose all of this. Welcome to Motherhood, solo style. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice. I'm your host, Laura. You know, we talk a lot on this show about how families can look a million different ways. Donor conception is one of the stories that's becoming more common, but it's still not talked about enough. Here in the United States, assisted reproductive technology, things like IVF, are now part of the family building journey for a lot of people. In fact, according to the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, more than 95,000 babies were born through IVF in 2023 alone. That's about 2.6 of all births in this country. So it's not really that rare anymore. This is real life for so many families. And while there's not an exact count of how many children are donor conceived, meaning they came into the world with the help of donated sperm, eggs, or embryos, some research from Cornell suggests that there may be hundreds of thousands, even up to millions, of donor-conceived individuals in the United States. That's a huge, growing community of families that don't always see themselves reflected in mainstream conversations about parenthood. One of the most important topics within this world is disclosure, meaning when and how parents tell their children they're donor conceived. The U.S. Donor Conceived Council recommends parents start that conversation early, ideally from birth or at least before the age of 3, because when kids grow up always knowing their story, it becomes just a part of who they are. There's less confusion, less secrecy, and fewer feelings of betrayal later on. And that's what is important about today's conversation. What it actually looks like to live through the truth out loud. Erika's story takes us through infertility and the decision to become a single mom by choice, but it's also a story about community and redefining what family looks like. And it's one that so many people will see themselves in. Let's dive in. Hello, Erika. How is your Friday going?
It is good. TGIF.
Yeah, I know, right? Can't believe it. It was like the longest week ever, in my opinion.
I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, so
Although it's
chaotic.
sunny out, so that's a good thing.
It is a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
I'm ready for fall.
Oh, me as well.
Yeah. I love
It's
the
my
summer,
favorite
but I'm
season.
ready for fall.
Fall is my favorite season, so I'm ready for fall temps.
Yeah, and to take your daughter to all of the fun places across the city.
That's why I like it. All the pumpkin patches, all the farms.
I know. So, what is unique about your story, and how did this lead you to becoming a single mom by choice?
Yeah. So I don't know if like the early parts of my story are super unique. I think I have a similar entry into this process as many people do. I had always had in my head that if I wasn't in a relationship by the time I hit my mid 30s, I would consider going the single parent route like everybody else. I hoped it would happen differently at that point in time,
Right.
but had always had in my head like knew I wanted to be a mom, knew that that was in my cards no matter what, and was not afraid to take that leap solo if it came down to that. I spent a lot of time in my 20s really not focused on dating, like just kind of living, establishing my career, like spending time with friends. It wasn't a top priority. When I hit like 30, I dated a little bit more. And when, a long term relationship had not happened or the relationship that I wanted to raise a child in had not happened by my mid 30s, I started to think about and explore the process of becoming a single mom by choice. So that's sort of my origin of it.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of women I've spoken to, like 35 to 40 is their cutoff. And if we haven't hit a relationship that is worth investing in, we'll say, then we make this choice or decision to make this choice. So, what surprised you most about this process of trying to conceive on your own?
I think that what has surprised me the most overall is the relationships I've established with donor siblings and their families. I work in open adoption. It's one of my fields that I do work in, and I'm a social worker. And so, open adoption, I've been a strong advocate for my whole career. The importance of an adopted child knowing their birth family, if at all possible, knowing as much as possible about their birth family, knowing the story of their adoption and where they came from day one. That was something I knew going into parenting a donor conceived child that I wanted to have right away. So I picked a donor that's able to be contacted when my child is 18. And I immediately found I use California Cryobank, but I immediately found the California Cryobank website and donor sibling registry and was like, oh, we'll see what happens with this. When Hadley was only a few months old, I connected to the first parent of another one of her donor conceived siblings. And from there, we have established really great relationships with quite a few of them. And I think I didn't realize going into this, like how meaningful that would be to both of us. To Hadley, it is to my daughter, it's extremely satisfying to see her siblings. She asks about them, she knows them, she looks forward to like twice a year max. We see them. They're a piece of her identity. Last holiday season at the Santa shop at school, she bought them all the ones we're in touch with. She bought them all little gifts, like
Oh my
$2
gosh.
gifts, and we sent
Yeah.
them out in the mail. Like they're a piece of her, and so professionally I knew this is what happened, yeah, and how important siblings are to kids. Seeing it play out like that was surprising to me, and seeing how much I got out of it. So to
Yeah.
me, seeing her have these connections, as a mom, felt like a really good thing I was doing. But also I've enjoyed the relationships I've made. Like our sibling group has other single moms by choice, it has same-sex couples. Like I've gotten to know some really awesome, one of whom actually lives in our backyard in Pittsburgh, which is insane, and we wouldn't have known otherwise.
Was
But
gonna ask you
people
about
we've been
that
friends with.
because we've had that conversation in the past, and for all the listeners
Yeah,
out there, Erica and I have actually met in person, so I know her a little bit prior to this
yeah,
conversation today.
yeah, yeah. So the siblings all live. Most of them are. Well, like majority are East Coast that I'm in touch with, just because that's easier to connect
Yeah.
with. But we do have some relationships with those that are like Midwest, and then one on the West Coast that we haven't met in person yet, but there's still some contact. We've done some Zoom calls, but the ones we've gotten to know the best are the ones within driving range where we can meet. There's a couple where we can meet within a like 3 to 4 hour drive at a halfway point,
Yeah.
and it's been great. I mean,
Oh.
it's very fun.
Yeah, it's rewarding across the board, like you said. I'm sure not just to the two of you, but on the other side too, with all the other diblings.
Yeah, exactly. And I think everyone values it, and as the kids grow, the relationship will take on more of their own as opposed to us orchestrating these
Yeah.
trips. But you already start to see a little bit of which siblings my child is asking more for, and some communication in between. Like we've sent like a care package or two here and there, and it will be really great, I think, to see these relationships take on a life of their own as the kids grow up.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you refer to him as the donor, or do you say, because this is controversial, father or
I
donor?
know. I say donor. I know that intellectually, it's my donor, not
Yeah.
my child's donor. It's my child's genetic father. I made the choice that to say donor because I feel like at this stage of her development, saying father is more confusing.
Yes.
And I know there's a distinction between genetic father and dad, right? I would never say dad, but I even think saying genetic father has developmentally to me a little bit of an air of confusion because she has a genetic father, but
Right.
not a day-to-day father like other kids have. I've
Yes.
been using donor. We have read books though on a lot of books on this, and a lot of the books I like do say genetic father. They talk about like coming from both sides. They talk about DNA from two genetic parents. She has a concept, even though I do use the word donor in our day-to-day like language.
How did you go about telling Hadley the story of her conception? I know we're skipping ahead quite a bit, but
Oh no, it's okay.
but how did you go about telling her all about, being
Yeah.
conceived this way?
So there was no I'm going to tell her moment. I took the approach that from day one, this was just part of her story. We had books from that I read from like infancy on that were about single parents by choice, that were about being donor conceived. There were some really basic little ones. One was like, I think the P that was me. The other was like about a lion, and a lion mom. And so she always understood. As she got older, I have explained more of the science behind it. I very much, she knows very clearly it takes a sperm, egg, and a uterus to make a baby. It's the What Makes a Baby book. So she knows that real clearly. And she knows that like egg came from mom, sperm came from donor, uterus was mom, understands that I, got help from a doctor to create our family. We recently read a book on DNA. Like, I think that I've broadened some of the language and some of the details as she's grown.
Yeah.
But she has known, I mean, from very, very little, that she has a one mom family, that she's born from a mom and a donor, that she has brothers and sisters that share the same donor. It was always like a natural point of our discussion. And I think the books really helped with that.
Yeah. Has she asked a lot of questions throughout the way? If so, what are some that stand out to you?
Not a ton yet. I tend to bring things up more than she does. I will occasionally say something like, because she's got a really good sense of humor. She's sort of goofy. I'm more of a serious person, like personality wise. So I sometimes will say to her like, you've got humor like your donor, or like she's got the blue eyes like her donor. And then last year in school on St. Patrick's Day, she was asking me if we're Irish, and I was telling her like, I'm not Irish, but you are part Irish because your donor is part Irish. And so she got so excited to hear that
Oh,
like she was part Irish and like from her donor. And so
right.
I feel like I've shared more than she's asked at this point. Sometimes she'll ask hard questions. Like once or twice she's asked like, why didn't you have a daddy for me? How come you didn't have a daddy to make me? Didn't
Yeah.
you want a daddy to make me? And it's a hard concept to explain to a child, like,
Right.
oh, what it takes to find a partner and the struggles to find a partner and what got me to that point. Those questions she's asked a little, and I've answered them as honestly as I can. And then I've said to her, "Do you wish you had a daddy? It's okay if you wish you did."
Yeah.
And so we've had some of those harder discussions in the past year or two.
It's almost easier to have the conversation about how you were conceived because I feel like those
Yes.
questions, like you said, are a lot more difficult to explain or answer, right?
Yeah, it's much easier for me to explain the science of how she was conceived and the donor and the half siblings. It's harder to, I mean, I think it's more of an emotional trigger for me, right? To like, because do I wish she, at times, I mean, I'm thrilled with being a solo mom and on our life, but are there moments where I wish for her sake she did have a father or another parent?
Right.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I can admit that, but it's hard to like admit that to your child, and to like, you don't want your child to feel like you want things any differently, right? But you also want to
Yeah.
be honest and truthful and not blow that off either. I think there's a balance there, and it hits those trigger points a little more in myself.
Right. Or that you failed them. You don't want them to think that either because we weren't able
Yes.
to give them a father, a physical father. Yeah.
Exactly. And I default back a lot to like, there are so many types of families. Some kids have just a dad and they wish they had a mom. Some kids have two moms and they wish they had a dad. Like, there's
Yep.
so many family types, and it's okay to wish yours looked a little different, but also realize like you have a pretty cool family.
Yeah. I think I've brought this book up before, but do you read her All Kinds of Families?
I don't know if I know that one. I use Todd Parr, the family book,
Okay. I don't know
which might
that
be
one. I'll have to look
similar.
that up, but All Kinds of Families is about like some people have one mom and some have like two moms or two dads or whatever. And it
Yes.
like goes through the different scenarios of what
Yes.
a family can look like. And at the end, it does a nice job of like tying it all together.
Yes. I think that's very similar to the Todd Parr one I use.
Okay, nice. This one, I'll have to look it up and get back to you. But so
Yeah.
going back in time, tell me about your fertility journey because I know a little bit
Mhm.
about, that, but for the listeners.
Yeah. So, well, I would say before I even jumped into the fertility piece, I did, and I like to put this out there because I think if there's anybody listening that's in a thinking stage, I did meet with a counselor to kind of just process, hey, I'm doing this solo, and to work through any grief associated with not doing it with a partner, and to enter it very ready, processing all angles, making sure I have the support. I'm a planner. I wanted to like do it right, quote unquote, right? So I did do that. And then I got the testing done at the fertility clinic. It moved really fast after that in terms of I got the testing done, everything looked good. Here's how you pick your donor. It started to move really fast. I had shared with my parents and my three closest friends at the time, and my sister. And my three closest friends at the time, my plan, I pulled them all into the donor selection. I narrowed down and then I did a Zoom. My friends were out of the area. So I did Zoom, help me pick the donor party with friends. And then I kind of sat down with my family on, I believe, a vacation and was like, here's my top 2 choices. What do you guys think? So I did pull people into that. Um,
Did you have
I had
criteria that you were looking for in the donor outside of like the standard?
well rounded. So I didn't want just the smartest person in there, right? I wasn't looking for just the med student. I liked well rounded. The donor I picked well, let me go back a second. I actually picked a first choice donor. Tried 3 times, it failed with my first choice donor before I switched to my second choice donor. So, and the 2 donors were a little different. And I often think like
Oh,
my kid would have been different had I gone with the first choice donor. The first choice donor was more my personality type, kind of a little bit more introverted, more academic, but also had like did sports, played music, some sort of artistic piece I liked. I wanted to make sure there was something in there with. I wanted the well-rounded. But then the second choice donor, who I ended up getting pregnant with, personality drastically different from me. Very outgoing, very much into like acting and comedy and theater arts, musical performance, but also did well in school, did some
yeah.
sports, was again that well rounded. I also wanted kind of what felt to me like quality people, like good people. So when I read their like essays or listened to their voice recordings, I was looking for something that showed someone that like maybe had a strong value system, understood what they were getting into, not the youngest of the batch, ones that maybe would have been able to think it through more.
Yeah.
So I looked at all those things. I didn't look at looks as much.
Yeah.
Although I will say that the donor I ended up with was a redhead because I have 2 redheaded nephews. I had thought like, yeah, if I end up with a redhead kid, that would be fun. But I didn't end up with a redhead kid, so. um, but then the way my journey went, I had bought 3 vows from my first choice donor, tried 3 IUIs, all 3 failed, and then went back to buy more vows and they were sold out. Then I had to decide, like, oh gosh, like, okay, I guess I'm going to try vows of my second choice donor.
Yeah.
And then I got pregnant on my 4th IUI, which was the first with the second choice donor. So interesting.
Wow.
I sometimes tell people like
Yeah.
that are struggling, like switch donors.
It's
You
okay
never
to switch.
know.
Yeah. The podcast that released, well, will be releasing, she talks a little bit about it's okay to like switch to, and she has a
Mm-hmm.
different journey from this. But yeah, so it's crazy. And sometimes it's the swimmers or the way they thought or whatever. There's much
Some stuff we
science
don't know
behind it.
too about compatibility
Yes.
of conception.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
So you had the little bachelorette moment with your friends, the party of picking your
yes,
donor, which was really fun. And I've heard a little bit about
yeah,
that. And you got pregnant on your 4th try. What did that moment feel like for you?
yeah. So I think that like the first 3 attempts were disappointing. I don't
It's
even
an
think you realize
emotional
how
roller coaster for sure.
yeah, like you don't even realize how invested you are until it fails, and then you're
Yep.
like, and I think I was starting to think about like how far am I going to go? I didn't really have the finances to do IVF. So I was like, gosh, if this doesn't work, like, am I going to look at adoption? Like, what am I, or fostering to adopt? Like, what am I going to
Yeah.
do? And then I made the decision to at least go another round with the new donor. When I actually took that positive test on the 4th one, I think I was surprised because the first 3 had been disappointing. I did not get my hopes up. And you probably know too, like in that like 2-week wait after you like get the insemination, you can read into every symptom. Like you're just like, am I
100%.
pregnant? Am I not pregnant? It's constant.
Right.
So I had by that 4th time, I had almost stopped doing the like, am I pregnant? I'm not pregnant. Just lived my life. So then when I took that test, I was like, oh my gosh, like this actually worked. I called my best friend immediately. She's the person that I told first. Like literally first thing I took the test in the morning and I called her right away. She knew I was testing too. That was helpful. But I will say for the first maybe 2 weeks after when it was so new, I felt scared and like overwhelmed and I was almost, had some moments of like, oh my gosh, I actually really did this. And like,
Mm-hmm.
what did I get myself into? Like I wasn't regretting by any means, but I definitely was overwhelmed in those first couple weeks.
Yeah.
adjusting to the fact that I was pregnant, that this was happening. Like, there was an overwhelm to
Yeah.
it.
And in your line of work too, I'm sure you see a lot of fertility loss. Did that have any sort of impact on your pregnancy?
Huge. Because I do some infertility counseling in the job I do, and I run an infertility support group. And I will tell you that like I had a lot of anxiety over miscarriage and losing the pregnancy. And it
Yeah.
definitely in the beginning, especially until I could hear a heartbeat and kind of got closer to that. I did my genetic testing until I hit that 10 to 12 week point. When that was all done, I was very anxious early on. And I think part of that was because I had seen so many hard losses in people, and
Yeah.
I didn't tell a lot of people. Like I wanted to like
Protect
get
it.
through that early stage.
Yeah. You're almost
Yeah.
protecting your peace throughout that time, and that's why we don't say anything. I mean, some people do. I didn't say anything for quite a long time, similar to you. I think it was just more so protecting that bubble because we don't know what's going to happen at any moment.
You
Yeah.
don't. And then you have to think about who all you want to answer to if something doesn't work out. Like
Right.
there's a lot of complicated feelings in there. As
Right.
much as you also want to shout to the world and tell everyone you love that like it's happening.
Right, exactly. How did you end up telling your village about your pregnancy?
I waited until I had told my best friend knew from the day I took the test. My sister knew maybe 2 weeks in. I told her very early. She had asked a question about the process, and I just ended up telling her. And then I didn't tell anyone else until I got so I was over 35. I did the NIPT, that non-invasive pregnancy testing. I found out genetics were good. I knew I had a heartbeat. I didn't tell anyone until I got that back. When I got that back, I did do a fun announcement for my family. I had printed up I have two nephews I'm super close with. I printed up T-shirts that said like big cousin, middle cousin, and then a onesie that said little cousin. And so I gave my sister knew this was happening because I'd already disclosed to her that I was pregnant. But I gave my sister the bag with the two boys T-shirts. I gave my parents the bag with the onesie of the baby,
Hmm.
and I just had them open it, and that's how I shared with them. And it was actually a super funny moment because everybody got it except my dad, who like for some reason like didn't seem to understand, and he was smiling and nodding, and we were all like, "Dad, do you understand what this means?" And then like probably we have it on video. Probably 3 to 4 minutes later, he was like, "Wait, are you pregnant?" Looking back, it's a very fun moment.
Did he think your sister was pregnant and not you?
I didn't know what he thought. I honestly don't know. He was so like just grinning, and we just all kept saying like, "Dad, do you understand?" And he's nodding, and then we're like,
Do
"Dad, do you
you?
understand?"
Yeah.
It's like
Do you
it was a
actually
funny
get
moment.
it?
Yeah, yeah. And then once I had told my immediate family, then I started to slowly tell, my closer friend groups, people at work that needed to know, and then eventually, I think after maybe the anatomy scan is when I made it Facebook official, right, where everybody could know. Like after I got to that point.
Yeah, that like halfway safe point as well, because that's another
Yeah,
milestone.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did you decide about who was going to be in the delivery room with you?
Yeah, it's such a tough decision.
Guess.
I I knew I wanted my sister. I also knew that if I had my sister and not my mom, that would be could cause some conflict in our I because my mom also she's the day-to-day person here. My sister lives in Ohio, so my mom did go to an ultrasound or two with me, and she did provide the childcare early on for me. So I didn't want to exclude her, but I knew my sister would be like the calming one I wanted with me. My agreement was that I would have them both if it was a vaginal delivery, and then I'd have just my sister if it was a C-section. And I didn't say to my mom that my sister would be the calming one, but I did like explain that if I have to choose one, I'd like Lauren to have this experience.
Yeah.
And she was fine with it. Well, I ended up with a C-section, and my sister was the one in the delivery room with me, and she was incredible. She had a playlist going. Music is playing that she had going. She documented. When I looked back at my photos afterwards, she had taken all these pictures of the clock, so I knew what time like all these things were happening, and she photographed the whole thing. She
Shh.
was wonderful. Yeah, she was really calm in the like recovery room. Like my daughter had to go to the NICU, which is another point of the story, but like
Oh,
my
yeah.
sister was super calm with me in like the recovery room, and like come on, like, you eat those ice chips so we can get up there and see her, right? Like all those things.
Yeah. That had to be hard because I'm assuming they took Hadley right away. What was that
Yeah.
feeling like for you and what was going on with Hadley?
Yeah, it was really hard. They brought her over so I could see her, but then they took her right away. Then I didn't get to see her until I don't know, what felt like a few hours after. I'm not sure if it was that long. They kept waiting because I couldn't feel like they had to wait till all the feeling came back in my legs, and that was taking a while. And it felt long. And it's again like one of those things when you don't have a partner, you can't send someone else to
Right.
go be there with the baby while you're recovering. It was hard. I don't even think actually while it was going on though that I really realized the magnitude of kind of how that played out. But a day or two later, when I thought back, it was like super emotional to think about. What happened
Mm.
was she inhaled amniotic fluid with meconium at the time of the
Oh,
C-section.
mom.
And so she was having difficulty breathing. So she had to go into the NICU with oxygen. And she actually stayed in the NICU for 11 days and then went home on oxygen. So we had a bit of a rough, our
Oh,
beginning was hard.
I guess I forgot about that part of the story, or maybe we didn't
I
talk about that, but
It
wow.
might not have come up. Like
Oh
we were,
my
it
gosh,
might not have come
Hadley.
up.
Oh, so she came home with
Yeah.
oxygen. How long was she on
Ooh.
oxygen for?
She was on oxygen till close to maybe 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. So probably it was 6 weeks total.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
But
So
she
it
was
was
full
a
term,
long
right?
stretch. She was 38 and a half weeks,
Okay.
close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor girl. My goodness, but she's
Mm-hmm.
healthy. She's doing well.
Oh,
She's
no
living her life.
repercussions from it. Yeah.
Looking back, is there any advice that you would give to somebody who's starting their donor conception journey? And I have other questions after this one, but
In terms of donor conception, I highly encourage the, considering, at least considering the contact with the siblings and
yeah.
leaving that door open to, maybe building those relationships for the child in the future to have. But I also think like in general with moving forward and starting the process is sort of like you have to abandon all semblance of a plan and how you think it's going to go. Like the
Mhm.
fertility journey, right? You don't know how that's going to go. It's so much out of your control.
It is.
Pregnancy, delivery, every piece of it. It's like each step you have to learn to relinquish some of that control. So I feel like, just knowing that you're entering a journey and like it kind of takes on a life of its own and having the skills necessary to like um to bear with all those things that you can't control or predict, and that's
Right.
hard for some of us.
Yeah, it's very much out of our hands. And like you said, there's a lot of emotions, and it's just a roller coaster overall going through the fertility journey, no matter what.
Hmm.
If you go into it with an open mind, like whatever happens, happens, you still have feelings. You get that negative test and you feel a certain way.
Exactly.
There's no changing that because your hopes get up, right? You just want it
Yeah.
to be successful. And some of us are just tired of going through the journey, you know?
It's right. And
Yeah.
and it's hard to stay in the moment sometimes. Okay, it's only one failed IUI, not I'm never going to be pregnant, but it's sometimes hard to go through that,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this failed. What if this never happens?
Right.
Train of thought too.
And then one failed IUI, but think of one failed IVF because that's 8 weeks, if not
Oh my
more, of
gosh.
your time. It's like a
Yes.
failed IUI is just what, 4 weeks, right? Total
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
beginning to the end. But then you switch to IVF and it's a whole 8 week process of going through this journey. And then if that fails, then you start all over again. And no wonder
And
it can take a while.
financially with IVF, like the
Yes.
amount of money you lose with a failed cycle, like it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, it is really, really hard. Your daughter, Hadley, was just 18 months when the entire world shut down. We all
Oh,
remember what
yes, she
that
was.
was. What was it like to parent a toddler through such uncertain times?
What's funny looking back because it was very hard going through it. Like your world is shut down, your support network is shut down. Thankfully, I kept my parents in my bubble. We did have somebody, like we kind of bubbled together, like my household and my parents' household. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't have probably gone through it quite as well. Um, and you're all of a sudden trying to think of creative ways to entertain an 18-month-old, even up to almost 2-year-old at that point before the world reopened, where at first it was like barely safe to go to a playground. No one knew if it was safe to go to the playground. Like I
Right?
actually remember, I think it was like late spring, well maybe it was like closer to summer when I finally decided I was going to take her to the playground. And kid things you'd be doing normally, like regularly with a kid of that age to let them run
Right.
around. But I also will say we found a zone that was quiet and peaceful. We took walks 2 times a day. We had these cycles in the neighborhood, and I can remember really clearly around Easter time. There were like 4 houses we would look for. Oh, that's the house with the duck outside. And then we'd walk further. That's the house with the Easter eggs outside. And that's the house with the bunny outside. And she loved that little walk. We literally twice a day we did it. Um, and and we once things opened a teeny bit, then we would get creative with I'd put her in the car and let her nap in the car, and I'd run through the Starbucks drive-through just to get out of my house a little bit. When I look back now, though, I will tell you, I feel lucky. I went back to work when she was 3 months old. I expected to never have time home with her again, and here I had her home with me from 18 months till 2.5. It was this bonus time where, like, I worked, my mom helped me out, but she was beside me. And looking back, I'm kind of thankful for that, as hard of a time as it was, and I don't want to go back there. There was a silver lining in having it. That was, kind of special. And
Yeah.
it was quiet, and it was you weren't running all the time. We just were home together. And
Yeah.
I guess now when I feel like we're at a stage of life that's getting busier because she's in school and activities,
Yeah.
I'm glad I had that.
Yeah. You kind of look back on it and it was just a special moment in your life that most of
Yeah,
us would never get, right?
exactly.
Yeah. Was it hard to adjust to the whole overall COVID?
Yeah, I think especially being a solo parent in COVID, like, and
Yeah.
not having that same network you had. I mean, I think the adjustment was really hard. And there was anxiety over like your kid getting COVID at that point, especially in the beginning when no one really understood what it was or like who was going to be hit the hardest by it. Part of it became this like, and that was the phase where you wiped your groceries down with like Clorox and stuff, right? Like where you're just, oh my gosh, I can't get my kids sick. Like that would be, that scared me. I didn't want to get my kids sick, and
Right.
it took a long time till kid vaccines came out. And there were anxieties over that, and I do think it was very isolating. And I think that it also defined me as a parent. Maybe not for the better in this capacity, but I permitted more screen time than I ever thought I would. I permitted more like snacking than I ever thought I would. It was almost survival mode where I had to work, I had to take meetings. If she had to be on an iPad while I took a meeting, or she had to eat extra snacks, it just happened, right? And I will say that, like, I look at things today and I'm a lot looser than I expected to be as a parent, and I think that COVID drove some of that. Like, it's hard to come back from that. You kind of just stay in some of that mode. And I don't think she's any better or worse from it, but it did shift how I thought I'd be as a parent with how I am as a parent.
Yeah. Cause I mean, you had to work no matter what, right? So you have to find ways, creative ways to make sure that you're still doing your job despite having her
Yep,
home beside you. And she was so young, she couldn't entertain herself.
exactly.
Yeah. She didn't get it.
And my sister was really helpful with this too, but my creativity got so much more than I thought I'd ever have during this period because I would be putting out constantly manipulative. Oh, here's a bin with snow in it to play with, right? Or here's a bin with like water in it. You can sit on the kitchen floor for an hour and play in a bin with water while I do a Zoom call. And yes, there's a big mess to clean up, but she's happy.
Right.
However creative I could keep her entertained, I'd put her in a high chair, and we baked a lot during that period, but I'd put her in a high chair and like give her the some of the like icing and stuff, and she'd eat it and scoop it and like just all kinds of stuff.
Make a mess, girl, as long as you're having fun.
Yep, yep, yep.
So tell me a little bit about Hadley. Is there one thing that she does that makes you think, yep, that's my kid?
Um, she is my kid. She definitely she first of all she looks like me.
I
But
can
and
say that for a
personality
fact.
wise,
She does look like you because I've met her.
you're correct. um, but she is my kid. I would say she has an immense sweet tooth, as do I. I'm always, oh man, like we joke and say the Schmidt sweet tooth because she's got it. Um, she definitely has complex emotionally, as am I. As was I as a kid, as am I currently. Like she feels like she's a big feeler, has big feelings, but really good at expressing those big feelings, better than I was as a kid.
Well,
Maybe because I'm a social worker and I worked with her a little
you
bit,
teach her, yeah.
but yeah, but definitely big complex feelings. We'll see where that gets us when she becomes a teenager. But
Right, yeah.
there are definitely things that are like me, and then there are things that are not like me that I attribute to her donor.
If Hadley could describe you in 3 words, what would she say?
Oh, that's hard. That's really hard. The funny thing is, I get little like love cards from her every day, but they just say I love you on them. But she gives me little like love cards.
Aw.
She would say, I've had her my mom bought me this little thing for Mother's Day, and you write on it every year what you love about your mom or something. So I know she would say that she's going to tell you I buy her things. That's for sure, even though that may not be my like proudest moment, but I do. And she also would say we go a lot of places. She loves like doing things and traveling, and we do that. And I think she would say that that you know, mom takes me places, we takes me on trips. I think that's important. She really does. Yeah. And I think she knows that like we have our special things together. You know, we read every night before bed for about half an hour, 40 minutes. Like we're going through like the Magic Treehouse series currently. I think those are things that are special at her age, whether she could define it that way or not, but she looks forward to it. Like she waits for that moment of the night when I stop doing things and you know, can sit down with her and read.
That's the hard part, I feel. It just, being a year in is doing all the things that you need to do and then
Mm.
stopping, being able to stop, I should say, and then just focus on your child. Because we are doing so much, like after dinner, you're cleaning up everything and then you're
Yes.
able to now focus. But it's that period of time where your kid doesn't have your full attention that I feel is really hard.
I am in agreement. And you have to be so intentional to, I think, stop doing what you want to be doing and give them that attention. Because I think it's very hard. I really have had to learn to leave the dishes in the sink after dinner and go play with her because what I want to be doing is putting those dishes in the dishwasher. But also, there's a very limited amount of time between dinner and bed. And that needs to be our time together. And we, as Hadley has gotten older, we need that time together. We function better as a family, and she and I do better together if we have that time together. I think it takes so much intention because it's very hard to balance even weekends, the laundry list of things I wish I could get done on the weekends versus what actually gets done on the weekends. And the stage you're in is even harder because there's no ability to play solo really or entertain themselves safely.
No. I mean, he's in a playpen. Well, used to be. He doesn't love being in there anymore, so
Okay.
he's less in a playpen now. I
Yeah.
have gated off the main floor. I did catch him the other day trying to climb the steps upstairs, and I
Oh.
was like, "Oh, no, no, we're putting a gate there too."
Right, right.
Yeah. But it's more so keeping him out of the dog's face at this point than anything. What's been the most unexpectedly fun part of solo parenting?
I love getting to see the well, I guess this is any parenting, and then I'll go back and answer solo parenting. I love getting to see the world through her eyes. I love like again some of the travels we've done and um you know, trips, and we're going to Disney in March, so I can't wait to see like Disney through her eyes. Getting to see some of these like things, you know, we went to do the we went and saw the eclipse last year, which like even just seeing something like that, which I enjoyed, but seeing it through her eyes, I've really enjoyed that piece of parenting. As a solo parent, I will say I like doing my own thing. I really do. There's nobody else to question your parenting. There's no one else to help you decide what to do on the weekend. You just do your thing. And I do enjoy that. I mean, the downside is also big decisions are made by you, and sometimes that feels burdensome to be the
Yeah,
only one making these big decisions. Where are we going to school when we start kindergarten, right? Or like I do like the freedom of I make the decisions. Like
right.
life looks how I want it to look. And with her, we have a really nice a friend of mine pointed out to me once, like we have a kind of a partnership, right? And what we decide what we're going to do on the weekend, like there's just two of us, like we're a team, and I think that you don't get that in quite the same way in a
Mhm.
two parent family.
Right. How do you find a balance between work and motherhood, especially as a single mom?
You know, work and motherhood I do okay with because I've always used full-time daycare except for COVID, and or currently she's in school but she goes to after school care. Work is work. At the end of the day, it's usually done. Sometimes I take calls or do some stuff when she goes to bed at night, but the trouble I have is balancing any me time. So, you know, work is good, parenting's good, but it's hard to find that time to go to a gym or, read a book or the things that I did before I had a kid that I struggle more with balancing. Most of the time it's after she goes to bed at night and there's a very limited 1 hour before I'm exhausted usually that I
Yes.
can do. And also in that hour is usually when I pack lunches or do the chores that didn't get done during the day.
The dishes.
So I think to me, that's the hardest point is
Yeah.
time for myself that isn't work and isn't parenting. Although I will say I have, as she's gotten older, I have used more babysitters. I actually was just reflecting recently that this past week I got a babysitter for the sole purpose of running errands without her and going to Panera, getting dinner, and reading a book. I just
I
felt like I
love this.
needed some like self time. And yes, you pay money for that, but I felt really good when that was all done. Um,
You deserve it.
it was needed. Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay to do that. Don't feel guilty at all,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
need that time to recharge yourself. What's the funniest toddlerism that Hadley has come up with?
Toddlerism. Hadley was a funny toddler. Hadley gets in little, like, I don't know, I guess you could equate it to like special interests that kids have. So she gets like a little obsession, then she stays on it. And started with like astronauts for a long time, where she like was obsessed with space. We had planet like blow up balls, and like she was naming all the planets. She was dressing in an astronaut costume. Like it was constant, like round the clock. And then we've switched to other things. Inside Out was another one. She had tons of Inside Out figures. She constantly played Inside Out, pretended to be characters from Inside Out. Now we're on to K-pop Demon Hunters. So we're 7 and we're
Yeah.
singing the songs 24/7. We're playing them 24/7. She goes through these little phases, but it's very she's a quirky kid. Right now she's also into jewelry and fashion. So she literally comes out in the morning to go to school with like 12 necklaces on and 6 hair bows. And I'm like sitting there like, hmm. So
She's expressing
sometimes I
herself.
let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I let it go. Sometimes I'll be like, do you think maybe you should like go down to 3 necklaces so they're not distracting during the day? But
Right.
she is her own self. She literally is her own kid. Doesn't care right now what anyone thinks. I'm sure that might change, but she is like her own little fashion diva in her own way, and lots of spunk, lots of quirk. She's a fun kid. She's also very warm. So she sort of, when you meet her, like she draws people in. She talks nonstop. That's another thing that was like me when I was a kid. She talks nonstop and tells stories and likes to relay everything she did in the whole day to you. um,
Oh.
so that's a little glimpse into her.
She's a little personality of her own and she's totally going places, it sounds like.
Yeah, she certainly is. It'll be interesting to see where it all. I often think about where that will take her. Where will she land in her interests as she grows in school and professionally one day and all that exciting stuff to come.
I know she's only 7, but where do you think she's going?
I suspect something creative, whether it is visual art, whether it is creative writing. She's very artistic. She loves to draw, to color, but it's not like your traditional stuff. It's like she creates like imaginary animals. Like she invents magical creatures, she calls them. Took me a second to get that, but magical creatures. And so she invents them and colors them, and like she like kind of creates this little world about them. I can see her doing anything that's super creative at this point in time. She also has a really good musical ear, which I did as well as did the donor. There's probably some genetic aptitude there, but she can hear a song one time in a TV show, and then she can hear it again 2 months later and be like, Mom, didn't we hear that in this TV show? And I'll kind of stare at her and then I'll Google it and I'll be like, oh, she was right. Like, and she sings completely on tune. So I think musical, theater arts, visual arts, I suspect that to be her niche. Although I also will say she has a love of animals, huge love of animals. So I don't know, maybe she'll go with something in that direction too.
If you could tie them all together, she'll be that person.
Correct. Yeah. I
If
can't wait to see.
right? Yeah. Well, it's all on recording. In the future, when Hadley listens to this, she'll be like, "My mom was right."
You're right.
If you could
Oh,
go
that's funny.
back and tell pre-mom Erica one thing, what would you tell her?
Stick with the tough times because it's the best journey and experience ever. There were definitely tough times. I would like to be able to tell you know, my parenting a brand newborn self that it's all worth it because that was hard.
Yeah. What would you say then to your newborn mom self? to get through those tough times?
It's so cliche that it's all a stage and it's all short, right? So stick with the hard because it's gonna shift into something else soon. Everything shifts so fast with parenting and goes so fast. The hard of this stage transitions into an easier stage, or maybe a hard of a different type, right? But
Yeah.
those early hard months in the beginning, and they are when you're not sleeping, when you're a solo parent and you're not sleeping, you're breastfeeding, you're the one responsible for everything, and my child was on oxygen too, so there was that extra stressor. Like,
Is a lot.
it was yes, it was very hard. Um,
Yeah.
but it's fleeting. It's fast.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the same experience as you in the newborn phase, but definitely I had quite a challenge those first, we'll say 12 weeks, with many different things that we'll get into in an upcoming episode. But it is hard, but it does go by very quickly. So be
It does, and
kind
I
to
think I would
yourself.
have told myself and would tell anybody else, and this also goes along with some of the professional work I'm doing now, but like I think I would have told myself it's okay to seek help. I
Yes.
think that there's such a stigma on women in general. If you're not feeling yourself, you're not enjoying that early stage, that oh, that's just normal. And I also think that for a solo parent, there's that extra thought of, well, I wanted this, right? I wanted
You
this,
chose this.
so
Yeah.
I got to just get through it. But also there is help and support out there, whether it's like new moms groups or it's like, therapists or looking into whether you've got actually something postpartum anxiety or depression. I guarantee if I had gone for a diagnosis, I probably would have had postpartum anxiety
Yeah.
during those first couple months. And I worked through it. But looking back, I'm like, I could have probably gotten more help and support than I did. And I would encourage anyone, when I get my phone calls for counseling clients of women that are postpartum, that I think I could use some help. I might be having postpartum anxiety. I'm always like, oh, it's so good you reached out. That,
Yes.
it's hard to do. It's hard to admit you need
It's
that
hard
help.
to be vulnerable. It's also sometimes
Yeah.
hard to recognize that in ourself because we're just trying to survive, right?
Yes.
You're going through the motions. It's really hard to step back and think of yourself and realize, you know what, maybe I'm not okay in this moment and I need help.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're so focused on the baby and all of the baby's needs that we really take a back seat to all of it.
Absolutely. And I think part of the solo mom journey is learning to ask for help at various stages and in various ways. And
Yes.
whether that help is hiring someone to do your grass. I haven't cut my own grass since I had my daughter. I pay for that. Letting go of something, though you get help where you feel you need it the most.
Yes. I could lean more into that as we're having this conversation. I'm like thinking through things. And I was actually just thinking this the other day. I was like, I could use somebody to help meal prep or help clean or whatever it
Right.
might be, because then you get that
Right.
time back.
Exactly. You get that time. We can't do it all, even though we think we can. We can't do every single thing.
Yeah. I think a thing for me was asking for help was hard because I didn't want to seem like I wasn't capable of doing it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So
I can relate to that.
I was almost too proud to ask for the help.
Mhm.
Yeah. Even now, I,
Yeah.
for the first time, allowed a friend to watch my kid a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow. That's
Oh,
a big step though.
yeah. I was like, well, got to do it at some
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Erica, thank you so much for this time. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
Oh, I think I covered it.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you, though, for allowing me to share my story.
Of course. And Erica will be back in a few weeks to talk more about the infertility, pregnancy, and loss. Did I say that correctly?
Infertility, pregnancy loss, yeah, that realm of reproductive mental health.
Thank you. So we will see her again soon. And thank you, Erica, for telling us more
Awesome.
about your story and Hadley.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Erica, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. Your openness brings light to a topic that so many families are quietly navigating: donor conception, hard conversations, and what it means to build a family on your own terms. Before we wrap up, let's touch on something that often comes later in a donor conceived child story: the connection to donor siblings, or as we call them, diblings. Research and lived experience show that many donor conceived individuals, knowing or even just being aware of their donor siblings, can play an important role in shaping the identity and their belonging. These connections can offer emotional reassurance, answer those natural questions about resemblance and shared traits, and help normalize their story in a world that still catches up with how families are made today. It's not about replacing family. It's about expanding the definition of what that means. And when children grow up with openness, knowing from birth or early childhood that they were donor conceived, those relationships and truth are integrated with confidence and ease. Erika, your story is such a powerful reminder that parenthood is rarely predictable, and sometimes it's about choosing the chaos, the messy, beautiful, and real moments to make this journey so human. Don't forget, subscribe to Choosing Chaos, leave us a review, and send us your best bath time breakdown story. We want to hear it all. You can also follow us on Patreon, Instagram, and TikTok to keep chaos going. Until next time.